Hey fam, what's happening? It is us. Wait, that's a show. This is a yeah.
This is us.
Well,
Yeah.
this is us though. Seriously, this is us. Hey, I'm the Purpose Catalyst, and I have my girls with me, Revy Rev to Ray Peoples.
No.
Hi. And of course, the Peace Princess herself,
Hey.
Martina, is in the building. Listen, if you caught the caption tonight, we are going to be talking about legacy. It's a big deal. A lot of people are chatting about it. And I figured we might as well get in on the good, right? Listen, as you're coming in, tell us where you're coming in from. Let us know how you're feeling tonight. Looking forward to hearing from you. So, so here's the thing. Okay, so we already have some real conversation. How did y'all feel on late Saturday, early Sunday when you found out the Black Panther was no longer with us?
Disbelief at first, like, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? you know, really disbelief,
Right.
and then just, disheartened. Disheartened because, you like I've seen pretty much all of his content, and to know that this, awesome actor's life has been ultimately cut short. You imagine him doing so much more. It's just, you feel disheartened, so.
Yeah.
Did it kind of hit you like hard? Like, wait a minute.
Yeah. I was borderline devastated. And the reason why I use devastated is just because you have to look at it as a whole, right? This is a good positive representation of a Black man.
Yeah.
And the whole embodiment of all of his work, everything he did was an iconic performance. You know what I mean? Like, it was second to none. You knew every time you saw the name Chadwick Boseman in the credits, it was like, I gotta go see that movie, not because it was the actor, but because you saw past the actor. Like, when he did James Brown, I was like, that was James Brown.
Yeah. Yeah.
He played James Brown.
Okay? He did.
When he played Jackie Robinson, I was just like, that was Jackie Robinson.
Right.
And when everybody is like, he is Black Panther, that is King T'Challa. I mean, you will never have another Black Panther that is that smooth, that is that just debonair. He was just, he was everything that you would hope and desire for a strong Black man to be, at least represented, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking, the surface level by which we know him, so, but from all of the interviews that I've heard from not just from the big celebrities or anything, but from all of the podcasts that I've listened to or whatever, they always speak so highly of him as just being a kind and nice, genuinely nice person. And so, heartbroken is how I was really feeling, just heartbroken. Yeah.
It's a lot. I looked at it was interesting. I saw it and then I was like, wait. Okay. Now all the pictures from a couple of months ago make sense, right? And you look at it from a couple of different ways. I was like, wait, he's like my age. That's major. So that was like a check. And then I sent it to one of my girls and was like, yo, look at this. And the first thing she said was, is this real? Because social media be killing folk off left and right.
Absolutely.
It's a thing. Yeah, it's a thing. Like in my crew, we know, like if I don't see you in 6 months, where they at? They dead? Is they alive? what is going on.
Right.
So they already know. But we had seen him, like he just had a movie release.
Right.
And it caused me to think about, especially after, like, I felt like Instagram lit up with tributes and memorials. And like, I'm not really that active on Twitter. Hey, Periscope. But I intend to be. But I felt like Facebook lit up on Sunday. But I remember kind of just running through Instagram and was like, oh my God, so many people captivated by his gift,
Mm-hmm.
what he offered to the world, and those who knew him and worked with him who didn't even know that he was sick and spoke very well of his work ethic, right? And even the fact that he did not allow the sickness to cause him to be nasty, for
Right.
lack of a better word. It didn't change the depth of his contribution.
Mhm.
And it was just interesting. Like, I remember reading Spike Lee say that he didn't know he was sick when they did the Five Bloods. And Ryan Coogler say, I didn't even know. Like, we did the whole Black Panther and I had no idea. And I recently caught 21 Bridges, and he was crazy in that. Like, it made me want to go watch it again. And he played a detective. And the way that he thought about things was just crazy. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And then when you saw like the way that he contributed to that movie, and the producer talked about how he gave him such intense notes
Mhm.
during that movie, and he said he was sick, he didn't have to do that.
Mm.
And it caused me to think about the legacy that I want to leave, about the one thing that I'm called to do. Right. And you know how we talk a lot about purpose and how people feel like they know they can do all the things. So they try to participate in all the things. But there's
Mhm.
one specific thing that he's really, really, God has really called us to do. And I wanted to talk about that tonight. How, if we really focus on that one thing, the depth of our contribution to the world would be magnified versus us scattering ourselves and doing all the things. You know,
Right.
and leaving droplets here and droplets there, for lack of a better word. So let's get into that. Teray, let's start with you. If you could divulge the one thing that you felt like you were called to do in the earth for maximum impact, what would that look like?
The one thing
The one thing.
for maximum impact, honestly, would be to ensure that I raise God-fearing children.
Ooh.
Children that genuinely have a love and a relationship for Jesus.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
is um, the most important. And I guess the reason why I say I have the most impact, because I'm able to reach, I multiplied myself that way, right? So God has blessed my husband and I with 4 children, and the greatest reward for me is to see all of my children serve the Lord. They all, we pray. Okay, so let me say it like this. It blesses my heart when my daughter, she asks me this often. She's just like, Mom, can you just pray over me? Mom,
Mm.
just pray over me. Um, and she'll ask me that, and it's not necessarily anything necessarily specific, but she knows that there is that power and there's
Yeah.
that connection there. And to hear her say that, or to hear my son, he'll come in the room and he'll see me laying down. He'd be like, Mom, are you okay? I'll be like, oh, buddy, I'm just not feeling the best. And he's just like, let me pray for you.
Yeah.
My eldest daughter, she is a junior in college. And that was one thing that was so very important to me, that when she went away to school, that she would have her own personal relationship with the Lord. Now, it's one thing when you're at home, because mama's gonna make
Right.
sure that you get to church and we do all the right stuff. But the school that she attends and getting in was a miracle in and of itself. But then since she's in Tulsa, she started attending Transformation Church with Pastor Michael Todd.
Oh,
And when she came home on break on Saturday, or not Saturday, but on Monday, after us, if we went to church or whatever, she would make sure that she listened to the sermon from her church, you know. And I mean, how many parents can say of their 20-year-old that they're sitting in their room and they're watching a sermon, you know?
Right.
Because if I can do that, if I can give that relationship to my children, then they'll give it to their children.
yes.
Yeah.
And now we are having the greatest impact. So for me, above everything else that I do, the Bible tells me that my home is my sanctuary, right? It is my first responsibility. And so if I know that that has been accomplished, then I think I'm doing pretty good.
Absolutely.
I think I'm doing pretty good. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Nikita, what about you? I mean, when it comes down to the one thing that God has called you to do, your purpose, that one thing that makes such a great and profound impact on who you're called to serve, what would that look like?
I mean, I would have to honestly piggyback off of Pastor Teray. It would definitely be my children, but more importantly, like helping them, not just helping them understand, you know, the importance of having their own personal relationship with God, but how to stand in who God says they are and protect their peace and forgive easily. You know what I'm saying? Like to teach them how to forgive, you know, even now, how to forgive me and their dad, you know, when we make mistakes, you know, helping them now understand the power of forgiveness now, so that when they get older, it's not a struggle like it was for me or for other adults. You know what I'm saying? Teaching them that now, you know, and watching them evolve and, you know, forgive each other and forgive, you know, as they continue to get older, I feel like is going to make the most impact, because as you know, people look to me and, you know, will call me when they're in trouble. When their friends are in trouble, they'll call them and ask for prayer, or ask for, you know, how did you walk this thing out? And so, you know, teaching them that, I think, is making the most impact in the world.
Okay. So let me share how I think I was greatest impacted. So I grew up in, like, my mom was like the third oldest in her family. My grandparents had 7 kids, y'all.
Oh.
7.
Mm-hmm.
All together in one house. 7. For me, that's a lot because I struggle with one. I'm like, oh, I got like one. Oh God, no, can't. But they had 7. My mom is the third oldest. And so I grew up with a whole bunch of family around me. But I also grew up with amazing, great, ain't nobody like them grandparents. And so I remember my grandmother was a natural evangelist. She just was a natural evangelist. Her go-to thing, and I don't think she realized it, but as I kind of look over her life and the legacy that she imparted into us, I think her go-to was to open the door with humor. Now, my whole family is a bunch of crazies. So y'all think that I'd be like on here like, oh God, no. My whole family, when you get together, wear Depends or sit close to the bathroom. Don't put anything in your mouth because it's going to be a problem. That's how my whole family, like my grandparents started that. I grew up in a family of humor and laughs and all that. I didn't grow up wealthy. We were not rich. We grew up rich in family and legacy and humor. Like, we laugh for days, right? And so I remember being at church with my grandmother. I remember my grandmother having tent services in her town, it was a very small, I grew up in a very small town. I'm so country at heart. I grew up in a real small town, and my grandmother would literally have outside service on Saturday, but
Wow.
we would go to church on Sunday. And
Wow.
she would get the music together. She would get this so now you see, Keita, where I'm coming from, right? She would get the music together. She would have a sermon. She would have everything. Like Grammy had whole tent revivals. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like one day, Saturday afternoon tent revival. Meet me there. And I think, she did it on a regular basis. But I remember her always praying about her family and being just a woman of faith and prayer, right? So when I look at her legacy, I look at the lives that she touched when she was on earth. And people who watched her from afar, who would wait for her to come out of the grocery store and say, I just had to see you come out and smile.
Wow.
That's all I need. Like, that was the epitome of a door opening for her to witness, because she wasn't going to let you leave unless she, witnessed you, period. Like, she was going to win you to Christ. You understand me?
No, that's right.
Christ, yo. You was going to come up and be like, yes, ma'am, I'm coming. Yes, ma'am. So I grew up with that kind of life. And I remember like being in college and pulled one of my Grammy tricks. Who has a whole like service as a freshman in college in the atrium with all of the kids on campus, invited churches, multiple speakers, a whole band,
Wow.
and souls being saved? Like, I was 18. Why?
Wow.
That's awesome.
Right. So I start to look at impact. And I think if there's anything that I want women to know, because, that's my focal point. If there's anything that I want women to know, it's one, that they were born for a specific reason in the earth.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing better to realize than that I have a full purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't a mistake. And it really doesn't care who tells you that, right? You realize, one, I'm not a mistake. I'm not a mishap. I am not the product of a one-night stand. I'm actually the product of a well thought out plan.
Amen.
Of God, right?
Yeah.
So I want them to realize that. I want them to realize that there is never an internal struggle that could keep you from the reason why you were created.
Mm-hmm.
Like, never. Portia said, I remember that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Portia got saved maybe a month or so before that. Whole situation. Child, the way them young people shouted that atrium down. I digress. Okay, so nevertheless, I always want them to know that there is never an internal struggle that could keep you from fulfilling your purpose. It's a matter of you actually laying the struggle down. Mm-hmm. And saying, I'm so much better than what attempted to kill me.
Yeah.
And I can go on, right? There's a future waiting for me. There's a promise waiting for me. And then last but not least, if there's anything that I realized through this whole pandemic, and actually even this year, 2020 has taught me that there is never a need for there to be a limit on your personal economy. Your pockets do not have to be limited by a pandemic, by a company, by anything, because that same purpose that's within you was also created to give you prosperity. Mm-hmm. I want them to realize that there's no limitation unless you put it on themselves. So my goal in life is to make sure that my daughter sees that, mm-hmm. and that my grandson sees that, so that they realize, I could do it all. Yeah. Like, this is, I could just do it all. I can do it all. I can do it all. And I can show people how to do it. I can live this thing out and be the example of what it means to live, so that, one, God is so happy that he's like, I got doors and I'm swinging wide the doors for you. At the end of the day, that's the foundation. I just want him to be happy with me as a daughter. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, Like I get privileges of that, right? So I want my legacy to be people so enriched in their identity that everything else is easy.
Yeah.
Everything else is just like, I can get it. I got that. I got that. Why? Because, child, listen, there was a plan for me before even my parents met. They didn't even know I was coming. I might have been a surprise to them. Definitely wasn't a surprise to God. Like, so when we talk about that, who would you say has impacted your life the most? Like, where would you find, ooh, I'm a part of so and so's legacy? Ah, yeah, that's my lineage right there. Yeah, that I learned something from them. They gave me a little something. Teray, who would you say that would be for you?
Well, that for me directly would be my mother.
I knew that
And
was
yes, and I'm not going to cry. Okay. Yesterday was my mother's 2-year heavenly birthday, and so my sister and I had an opportunity to just really share some of our best memories from her,
Mhm.
and just really reflect back on what it is that she did instill in us. Um, so let's go back a little bit. I am a fourth generation praise and worship leader. Okay. My great grandmother and my great grandfather pastored two churches in town. So she was the praise and worship leader. She was first lady praise and worship leader. Then my grandma, she had her kids, and they sang, and then my mother had her kids and we sang, and now it's my responsibility to carry that on. But what I will remember is my mother taught me how to worship. She taught me the importance of understanding what my position on that platform was. The one thing that she used to say before we would get up, right when we got up before we would start singing, she would say, "We did not come to perform for you, but we came to lift up the name of Jesus."
okay.
Remembered that. Like that's one of those phrases that she would say, and I always remembered that. And she was very adamant about, we don't come to perform, we come to worship, we come to bring glory to him. And because of that, um she wouldn't even let us like half do it during rehearsals. I'd be like, "Well, Mom, this is just rehearsal." She was like, "No, you give God 100%, 100% of the time, because you don't know when you're going to have another opportunity."
Oh, God.
So it was always, I carry such a reverence for platform ministry. I carry such a reverence for just praise and worship in general. My grandmother also, for years, she would get up, she would go to 6 a.m. prayer, and she would call you after 6 a.m. prayer or on her way to 6 a.m. prayer and be like, "Oh, you still sleep?" Yes, ma'am. Everybody's still asleep. The whole entire world is asleep right now, Grandma. But she would get up and she would call you and she would tell you, "Well, I called your name out at 6 a.m. prayer this morning. I prayed. I said, God bless my seed and my seed." And she was so consistent with her prayers for us. And I am living the life that I live because I know those prayers of my great grandmother and my grandmother and my mother. So, yeah.
Yes.
I think that's powerful. We are kind of like the harvest of their prayers. We get
Absolutely.
to participate in their partnership with God.
Absolutely.
And they took that thing seriously.
Yeah,
Listen,
we did.
I think my grandmother fasted for like 20 years straight.
I believe it.
Grammy, you wanna do breakfast? I'm doing one meal a day. I'm doing one meal
See,
a day.
I know that's right.
they used to say that my great grandmother, that was my Medea. I have a real Medea. They used to say that Medea had a bat phone. Like she would, how Batman had his phone,
Yes,
they would call,
yes,
he'd come to the rescue. They would
yes.
say, "Yeah, Medea got that bat phone to Jesus. So, she did her
Listen,
wrong."
Got
listen.
them on the main line.
Yeah.
Yes. Like,
I mean, let's be honest. We called them for everything. When I had my daughter, I think I told y'all this. When I had my daughter, they said she had Down syndrome.
Mhm.
oh,
And
wow.
my mom called my grandmother. So my mom, my dad was there, my brother and my sister, and I had her at like 10:30. By 12 o'clock, she was not with me. She was in like the little place where they keep the babies. I don't
Mhm.
know what it's called. I only have one, you know. Wherever they keep the babies at. She was,
In the nursery.
Right.
yeah. In there. So she was in there, right? And they came in, and the nurse came in and said, so the doctor had an opportunity to tell you that, we diagnosed your daughter with Down syndrome, right? How you just gonna be so cavalier with that, number one?
Yeah.
But I was like, well, y'all came to the right room today. So my mom called my grandmother and her sister. Yo, they were like, they weren't twins. My grandmother was the baby. My aunt was like, I don't know. She was one of the elder sisters. She was like the second girl. But they rolled tight, lived around the corner from each other and everything. And kids grew up together. So my mom called them, they came up. I remember my grandmother coming into the hospital. Now I'm only 5'4", so I'm the shortest, I'm like the runt of the family. My family, even the women are like 5'10", 5'11". They're tall. I'm not. The men in my family are like 6'3", 6'4" and up, right? They're a big family. My grandmother came in the hospital room, and I remember sitting there like, oh my God. Like, I'm 19. I'm thinking all of this, I can't, what? You did what? And then they tell me that because her ears are so small, they think she has organ issues. She failed the hearing test like 7 times. So they were concerned. My grandmother and her sister came in their room, and my grandmother, I promise to God to this day, she was marching with my aunt behind her. By this time, my daughter was in the room with me. She picked her up out of the little clear bassinet and began to speak in tongues and pray over my daughter. Like literally her and my aunt holding her, like just, rocking her and everything. That was the introduction of my daughter into the family. That was what my grandmother did. So then they came back and they said, it was probably like later that evening or like the next day. I'm so sorry. We're not sure what happened, but she doesn't have Down syndrome. She is failing the hearing test, but we just think she has liquid in her. We're gonna test her tomorrow. That's it. Her organs are fine. Everything's good. We don't know. We're not sure. But that was her indoctrination into the family, was my grandmother marching in her kitten heels, her block kitten heels, and her and my aunt praying over my daughter. My grandmother left such a legacy of like prayer and devotion to God. Like I remember hearing pages flip in her bedroom while she was studying, because she studied daily, but when she had to preach, you best better believe that little steno pad and that pen was fitting to be running, right? It was crazy. Like to this point that we probably still have some of her sermons.
Wow.
I remember her talking about faith like it was nobody's business.
Wow.
My grandmother found out she was diabetic when she went to the doctor, and her sugar level was 1,300 plus.
Wow.
And the doctor said, sit down. You should be in a coma. You should be dead. That lady drove herself to the doctor, drove herself home and said, I'm just tired. And I don't need my glasses to see anymore. That is that's how we knew faith. There were so many stories that just my grandmother, it was just amazing of how God kept her and her relationship with God. She was a seer, and her visions and her dreams, bananas. But that's one of the things that is, prevalent in our bloodline, is the ability to see, the ability to dream. Portia said Chick Smith happened. That's what happened to Leah. But that's what they call my grandmother chick. Uh, so, but when you think about it, those are the things that we will never forget, right? So if I were to think about one of the things that or those things that she left, it would be faith. It would be prayer. It would be a relationship with God. Now, I'm not going to talk about how she forced me to get baptized, but
She knew it was good for you.
yeah, I was obedient at 10 and I did it. Um, but why she made me get baptized? I was she made me pop up. Yeah, she made me get baptized. I learned not to make people get baptized, though. I did learn that. Don't make people get baptized. Because Grammy, that wasn't right.
Drown the saints.
Should've
Drown
been- Yeah, she tried to make sure. And then I think my uncle tried to drown me when he baptized me.
Mhm.
Whole different subject. Whole different subject.
Lord.
Okay, so Keita, if we were to talk about the legacy or people that you would say contributed to who you are today, who would that be? The main one. Are you gonna bust out crying?
No.
Oh God!
Don't cry in public.
Like I can't. I was like trying to figure out how do I get to where I can't. What's this?
I don't know. I don't know because, you know, like, yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I know like my grandmother, and my grandfather, they were both like very, very smart. Like my aunt is a teacher, you know,
Okay.
so she just would, I mean, summer, and I my kids were in school all summer as well, but like it's like, you
For
know,
no reason.
we doing book reports and stuff like that. So
I feel so bad for them.
listen, they gonna always be at the top of the class, honey.
I mean, they're highly intelligent children, but they work very hard. They don't get no breaks or nothing. Jesus. Sorry.
If I had to say anyone, I guess it would maybe be her, my aunt. You know, because she was always on us to read, always on us to be educated about Black history, knowing how to do math, and you know, just being on top, like not letting a moment go where if this is a teachable moment, you're gonna know it. You know what I'm saying? So I would definitely say her, because that is something I do all day, every day with my kids. So absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Don't encourage that. It is not awesome to be a warden.
I'm not a
warden in her home.
They have fun.
She's teaching her children.
Who's saying that they had fun? You or them?
They say they had fun.
Look, they don't know what real fun is. They got to have
Girl,
fun.
they met their teacher today, and you know Victoria is outspoken. So the teacher asked her what she did this summer, and doing their studies was not something that she brought up. You know what I'm saying? She's like, I had fun. We went on vacation. We did this. You know, they be having fun. That's just a part of their routine. Look.
Good job, Mom.
Child, you got to tell that lie to somebody else. You got to tell them lies. Victoria don't know no better. She said, this is fun. I took 2 vacations, but out of 17 months, I had to go to school.
17.
No, for real, that is imperative though. Like seriously.
Awesome.
I mean, listen, is you open for virtual learning? Can Bubs come down there?
Hey.
He ain't gonna be irrespectful.
He won't be.
They probably don't know what that means. Y'all, the other day, Bub said, my grandson said somebody was irrespectful.
He knew what he meant.
He did, and he said what he said.
He said what he said.
He said what he said.
What he meant.
Yeah, he did. Y'all, if you had to write, this might be too much. This might be too much.
What?
What is it?
If y'all had to write like a statement of honor to the person that really imparted a lot, attributed a lot to who you are today, what would that sound like? Is that possible? Can we do that? Do y'all need tissues? Because I can't FedEx them to you or nothing.
Thank you! Exclamation point.
What you say? What you say?
Thank you! Exclamation point.
I promise you that's what I was going to say. I was going to say thank you.
Thank you! Exclamation point.
Oh, God. Well, you know what? I'm going to do it. 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 I'm going to do it like only I can. Okay? So this goes out to my grandparents. I had a mix. Should I tell that?
Mm-mm.
My grandpa was number one. He was an OG. He was an OG. I learned how to cuss from my papa. I mean, real good. I was ready by the time I hit high school. But nevertheless, I digress. Okay. So, to the grandparents that only I could have, that everybody probably wished they had, I honor James and Helen Smith because, baby, without them, this craziness you see all wrapped up in the Purpose Catalyst would not exist. My grandfather, both my grandparents actually, were very much proponents of education. And I appreciated that because even after my grandfather passed, one of the things that I was ready to stop was my education. Like I was in the process of getting my bachelor's degree, and I was taking care of my grandmother. And I talked a little bit about it last week when we did the Q&A. And I remember my grandmother saying, "You have to finish. You have to finish, and then after that, you're going to do it again."
Mm.
And she was sick. She was sick. My grandmother had a series of strokes. So, she wasn't the grandmother I grew up with, but she still had her faculties enough to tell me that. And I remember her saying, because she didn't go out often unless she was going to dialysis, but I remember her saying she would come to my graduation. And my grandmother passed a little bit before my graduation. And I remember thinking, I don't need to go. Like the one person I want to be there with me is not here. So if I were to honor anybody, it would absolutely be James and Helen, because I wouldn't be who I am without them. Like the fact that God saw fit to put me in their bloodline and to give me that rich mix. So I got education. I got the proudness of being a Black woman in America. I got a family that I couldn't ask for. I mean, I got a huge family. But all of that, he actually saw fit to put me in such a family. So I could be crazy but well-spoken. I could have wisdom but act like I ain't had no common sense. I could speak well of you, or back in the day before I really committed to God, I could cuss you. I had a rich mix. I don't cuss no more, though. I don't cuss no more. I'm sober. My mouth has been sobered up. But I'm just saying, I had known how to do. It's a rich mix.
It is.
Yeah. I could shoot a gun, or I could stab with a knife. You know what I'm saying? Like a rich mix. Who don't need that kind of life? Rich mix. But I would honor them immensely. I had personal security detail. See, y'all thought only the president had that. You understand me? I had 5 uncles, and 4 of them would be responsible for me.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, child, we had long lane when we, at the house, and they would have to meet me right there at the lane. I couldn't even walk inside the house without a security detail. They was looking. But you ain't got that. You ain't got that. You know.
Oh,
Now you be like, just walk on home. Let's go. I had personal security detail. That's legacy. That's legacy, man. Now you can't even take Bubs out to school and walk him to the car because he got to run to the car and go get his ice water. I'm trying to change that though. I think he needs some security detail. Okay, y'all pray for me so I can get my legacy right.
Done.
Yeah. All right, y'all. So listen, there is one thing that I want you all to do. I want you to talk to other women who are like you, who, whether they have a legacy like us or not, but what they can do to create legacy in their community, in their family, at their job. You know you can leave a legacy at your job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that when you leave, they'll be like, man, who gonna bring the good food for the potluck? No, but like real legacy though. I want you to speak to that woman who's trying to figure out what her legacy will be in the earth and coach her for just give her about 30 seconds worth of wisdom. Can y'all do that? Mm-hmm. Keita, you want to go first?
Sure.
I knew you had it in you.
So, young lady.
Young lady.
Here. When, as you live your life, there will be times where you will, you'll have the imposter syndrome, and you'll downplay, what God has put in you, but you will be surrounded by people that look to you and call on you for a specific thing. Kimberly calls it your purpose. And they will call you, and it will be the one thing that is consistent that they're calling you about. Don't scale back, whether it's prayer, whether it's a conversation about they mamas or whatever, don't scale back. Like, walk in that thing with boldness. Regardless if you feel like you're doing it right or not, you're doing it. And once you start to tally up them things, you'll see like that thing that you've been doing for free your whole life is what God put you here on earth for. So don't scale back on what you already doing.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
Don't scale back. Don't scale back. Teray, what about you? Give them 30 seconds of Teray wisdom.
The one thing that I would have to say is that you have to always remember and keep at the forefront of your mind that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. That God was very intentional when he created you. So there's nothing missing or broken in you. Everything that you need to be who God has called you to be, you already have. The Bible says that now unto him who's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or imagine, according to the power that works on the inside of us. We are powerful beings. There is power that lies within you, and the world needs to experience that power. And you have to disregard the approval or disapproval of others. You can't depend on being approved of, and you can't depend on being disapproved of. And you just have to step out in what God has already put on the inside of you. So tap into that. The Bible tells us that we are to stir up the gifts of the Holy Ghost that lay on the inside. We have to stir those up. So get around people, the purpose catalyst, get around people that can begin to stir those gifts up, that can begin to agitate those areas of your life that may have been laying dormant, and then step out in it and do it. And do it.
I love that. So listen, don't scale back and do it. They're very much intertwined.
Yeah.
I love that about you all. You just sync together like a good phone and watch. just together. Sorry. I like electronics. Okay. Plus, I want to upgrade my phone and my watch. Sorry. Okay. All right. So listen, y'all, if you have not learned anything from tonight, I want you to learn this. I love that Nikita told you to don't scale back. Listen, go forward and make it happen. And then Teray said, keep going, keep moving, and be okay with who you are. I want you to realize that if you put those two together, that's really what you need to leave a legacy in the earth.
Amen.
There is a specific reason why you were born. And we want you to pursue that unapologetically, like never before. We literally have, what do we have, 4 months left? September, October. Yeah, we have 4 months left, almost full. 4 full months, almost. This is the time like never before to pursue your purpose and understand. Like, we don't just want to keep saying purpose, purpose, purpose. I want you to comprehend the reason for which you were created. There is a very specific reason. There is a very innate reason in you that will be bubbling to the surface like never before. This is the thing that you need to investigate, discover, and pull on, because as Nikita said, you absolutely should not scale back. It is the reason why people keep calling you. It is the reason why people look to you. It's that one specific thing. And then, like Teray said, be okay with the fact that they do. Be okay, and be okay in knowing that your identity is not wrapped in what you do, but it's in who God says you are.
Amen.
All of those things. And that's the reason why the world needs you. And that's why your legacy is so important. And the thing is, here's where we get caught up. You two correct me if I'm wrong. Here's where we get caught up. When things get crazy, we'll stop and we'll sit down, and we may never return to it again. You ever had that feeling? Like, I ain't have to do this. I don't have to do this. This is too hard. This is difficult. No one supports me. I don't even know what this means. I don't even know what my future looks like in this. But the minute that you stop is the minute you forfeit your legacy.
True.
Don't forfeit your legacy. We need it. The generations behind us need it. The generations behind them need it. My daughter, who is a great-granddaughter, speaks of my grandparents. My grandson is named after my grandfather. He has his first name. And we show him pictures of them because that's his legacy. That's his heritage. So I want you to think about every person that you touch, every person that you impact is a part of your legacy. Every person who decides to transform their life because you stepped in it is a part of your legacy. Every story that you can shift so that things change for them is a part of your legacy. If you stop, there'll be no legacy. And it doesn't need to die where it is. There is more for you to do. So, sis, we need you. Get clear on that purpose. Get clear on that superpower. And then get to work, like Teray said. Make it happen. Do it. Do it afraid. Do it scared. Do it with trepidation. Do it with fear. It doesn't matter. We don't let that stuff keep us. We don't let our legacy die in our emotions. Can you imagine if our legacy died because of how we felt?
Jesus.
Ugh. I just felt like a sickening feeling. Ugh. But it's in the power that we have that's within us to continue. It's the strength, it's faith to keep going because you know that your legacy is needed in the world. Listen, in the comments, in the first comment is a quiz for you to take so that you can really discover and start to feel out what that purpose is. And you can start to articulate it well. Make sure you take that quiz. Make sure if you have questions, you put them in the comments because we can't wait to see them. Y'all, Monday is Labor Day. What y'all getting into? It's pandemic Labor Day. What you doing?
Hello. Okay. Nothing.
Then it's
Shoot.
supposed to be smoking a brisket this weekend, and so
Wait a minute, who's smoking a brisket?
my husband. So
Okay. Shoot.
Wow.
I'm probably just gonna
No.
hot dogs.
Right? You can ship it to me and I'll share with Nikita.
Okay.
got you.
Nikita, what you doing?
You heard what I said.
Number one, them kids better not be in school.
Preparing for school, packing their lunch for school.
I'm picking them the soggy sandwiches.
What?
Oh yeah, they're gonna be in virtual school.
Yeah, right. They're gonna be at home.
Right. So they gotta pack their lunch. Get
No.
their school clothes together.
She meal
No.
prep.
No. They're gonna be home. Why you got the meal prep? They home.
Because it's school. Because they're not home. They're in school. They just happen to be here.
But it's still school.
Still school.
I'm so glad I didn't grow up in your house. All right, fam, we are out. Thank you for joining us for So Here's the Thing. I'm your girl, Kimberly, the Purpose Catalyst, Mr. Ray, Revy Rev Peoples. Tell the people bye.
Bye.
Such a dog. Keita, what you call him? Pageant queen. Right, I cannot. Keita, the Peace Princess, send us out with your usual.
Hey. Y'all.
I'm so grateful, y'all. I love y'all. We'll talk next week. Bye.